Warren County School Board for Wednesday, February 6th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. The first item on our agenda is to accept or modify the agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Community participation. We're doing things a little differently this evening because we do have a public hearing. So if you want to speak to the board about something on the 2020 budget, that will be done during the public hearing. However, if you have something else you would like to address now and speak to the board, this would be the time with the community participation. Community participation is a time intended for the public to give input on relevant school issues and not intended to be a question and answer period, as this may be the first time the board has heard this information. Please do not expect individual responses or any comment by the board at this time, but be assured that any concerns will be reviewed. Please print your name on the sheet at the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
This is the community participation part, and then I'll come back.
Okay.
My name is Kim Oakland, and I am the president of the Warren County Education Association, as well as a teacher at Ressie Jeffries Elementary School. You may have seen news articles about the rally in Richmond last week, urging the General Assembly to fund our future by giving localities the funds they need to support the 5% pay raise that was approved in last year's Commonwealth budget. And that's why I'm wearing red tonight. Wear red for Ed. My colleagues are wearing red. And the Virginia Education Association has launched that Red for Ed campaign to raise awareness about the need for the state to finally step up to the plate on what it is demanding of localities in regard to their school systems. So I challenge my colleagues and school board members and Warren County Public School staff members every Wednesday to think about wearing red for Ed. And I had some red pins for you as a school board appreciation gift, and they're still in my classroom. So, but I will get them to you at the next school board meeting. So that's my community participation.
Thank you, Kim. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? No? Public hearing. If you would like to speak on anything about the proposed 2020 budget. Welcome back.
I'm Kim Oakland. I am the president of the Warren County Education Association. And I know you guys get tired of me saying the same old stuff. February. It is a month with more events and special days than one might think. We have the usual Groundhog Day, Valentine's Day, President's Day. It's also Black History Month and Kindness Month. I'm sure that, I know at our school we had the Tunnel of High Fives, and I'm sure they were at some of the other elementary schools and maybe the middle and high schools as well. It's also School Board Appreciation Month, and we appreciate you, believe me. It's National School Counselor Appreciation this week. I really appreciate our school counselors. They are having to do so much. And one of the bills the General Assembly is considering is to meet the national recommendations on counselor-student ratios, which the Virginia Board of Education approved a couple years ago, but of course, the General Assembly hasn't funded that yet. Shocker. The other February event, of course, is that you and the Board of Supervisors begin the difficult task of building the county's budget. So before I do my usual spiel about preaching to the choir in regard to teacher compensation, because you've heard it and you're going to get a report in a little while, I wanted to speak about our many paraprofessionals and support personnel. I don't know what the study results are that you will hear later, although I can guess, but I haven't seen them. I have no idea what they were, but I do want to share a few concerns as you think about your budget priorities. When I looked at the salary scale for our instructional assistants, I was appalled. Are you aware that the beginning salary for an instructional assistant, it's only 34% of the beginning teacher's salary, is a mere $2,000 above the national poverty line for a one-person household? If that instructional assistant has a child, that beginning salary is now $2,000 below the national poverty line for a two-person household. Every teacher who works with instructional assistants will tell you those assistants are critical to that student's success. But that message isn't supported by our salary scale. Our office personnel, our cafeteria workers, our bus drivers, transportation staff, and others, they're all vital to the success of our school system. I suspect that the salary study will reveal that most of our staff is woefully underpaid. As I said, I haven't read that. But what about our maintenance department? Are you aware that we have fewer maintenance personnel now in 2019 than we did in 2008? And we have more buildings, a lot more buildings. I'm not talking about the custodial staff whose services were contracted out. I'm talking about actual maintenance staff. We're losing several maintenance personnel to retirement, in which they richly deserve that. But I want to publicly give my thanks to Mr. Riley and his staff. I don't know how they do it. And now I'll just share a few figures on teacher compensation. The most recent rankings on compensation from the Virginia Education Association, and Mr. Drescher gets those as well, and I know he may have already shared these with you. Warren ranks 34th in beginning teacher pay at a bachelor's of no experience of all the school districts in Virginia. That's wonderful. We're higher than all the surrounding counties. We drop to number 89 when we look at someone with 30 years experience. Only Page County has a worse ranking. When we look at teachers with a master's degree and no experience, we drop to 44th in the state and number 3 in our region. A master's with 30 years experience puts us at 91st in the state and number 7 in our region. Again, doing better than only Page County. We say we value education and experience in staff, but the numbers don't support that message. I know that if it were up to you, you would fully fund everything. You would take it out of your pockets if you could. I understand that. Unfortunately, funds are limited and agreeing on budgets is difficult, especially in a year where enrollment is down. The lack of affordable housing in Warren County may well be one of the contributing factors to that declining enrollment. My personal opinion is that it is. We already know that many of our teachers can't afford to live here. I hope that is something that the Board of Supervisors is pondering as they make their long-term plan. And of course, it's a catch-22 because affordable housing, taxes, but how do we fund? There are no easy answers, but there are many difficult choices. as I tell my students, when they have a day where they get to choose their seats, please choose wisely. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing that information. Something we're all aware of up here, but I'm glad you all got to hear it also. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? No? Public hearing closed then. Consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Before we move on to reports, I'm going to ask Mr. Drescher to say a few words.
Thank you. I really appreciate you approving that agenda just right now, because in doing so, you approved the personnel report. And on that personnel report this evening is our new Director of Maintenance, Greg Livesey. And I'll just get Greg to stand so we can welcome him. Thanks for being here. And, you know, we are sorry to see Mr. Riley go. He's done a wonderful job for us, and but he is a well-deserved retirement coming. And Mr. Livesey comes to us from Fauquier County, where he is the current director of maintenance there. But he lives a little closer to us, and so I think that was part of the reason that we were able to steal him away. But we thank our friends in Fauquier County for being able to give you up. So welcome. So,
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reports. Big boys into gentlemen. Ms. Rudisil.
Good evening. I often have the opportunity to come before you all as the Director of Elementary Instruction to introduce our elementary schools and some of the great programs that they offer. So it's even more special to me tonight to be here as the principal of E. Wilson Morrison Elementary School and introduce to you Mr. Rodney Brown and Mr. Shane Goodwin, who are going to talk to you about the Boys into Gentlemen Club that has begun at E. Wilson Morrison this year,
Thank you.
and some of our fine Boys into Gentlemen Club members.
Good evening, Madam Chairman,
Good evening.
members of the board, administrators, parents, and guests. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and speak with you. My name is Rodney Brown, special education teacher at E. Wilson Morrison, and I would like for you to be introduced to a few of our members of Boys into Gentlemen, BIG. So the purpose of our program, or project, is to provide 4th and 5th grade boys with the opportunity for leadership, mentoring, and community involvement. Currently, we have 10 members, and we're looking to grow that pretty soon. So we are trying to center our program around influence. So here are a few questions that we would like for our boys to keep in mind. 1, what is influence? 2, what makes a person influential? 3, how can I become influential? 4, how can I be a positive influence to improve myself, my school, and my community? So right now we are doing our meetings. They're held on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. I think it should be longer, but that's good enough for, a start. Once a month, we will take the boys out to a local restaurant. Today, we went to Soul Mountain, and they had a great time. We had a great time. So we normally do that once a month. And that's on Wednesday, we have a presenter come in, and then we will speak about that the following day. In the end, we will hold a celebration where the boys will have an opportunity to showcase all their skills and knowledge of the program. So now I will introduce you to Shane Goodwin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us tonight. It's such a privilege for me to be here with you, with our boys. I want to also thank our parents for bringing your children tonight. It's essential for them to be a part of our program as well. When I walked into the room tonight, I was asked if I was a big boy. The answer was yes. I do get asked that a lot, by the way. We want to talk a little bit about our program units. It's such a privilege to have this opportunity at our school. The Warren County Education Endowment provided the funds for us to have this program. We made a presentation. I think it intrigued some of the members. It's an innovative idea. I'm new in the community. I've been here only 6 months. I was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I moved here with my wife, who's the pastor at First Baptist Church. I was a middle school principal and an elementary principal there. So I always had a dream about a mentoring program for boys. So sometimes what happens is when you get the opportunity, privilege to serve at a school, you meet someone else who has that same dream. So the two of us put that dream together and put this program together. And with Ms. Rudisill's blessing, we're thankful to have this for our students. I do want to tell you the program units we have. Learning about myself, it's important for our students to understand who they are, not only in their own family unit, but who are they as a student, who are they as a group or a member of E. Wilson Morrison Elementary School. What's next for me? We really think careers are important for our kids to be exposed to, so we have speakers who will come in different avenues who will tell them a little bit about opportunities. Etiquette, we worked on etiquette in our group last week and also the restaurant today. Influential people like you. You have a lot of influence over what happens in our schools and in our community and the roles you have not only in our community but in this room. So I welcome you and we invite you. If you'd like to speak to our boys, we would love to have each and every one of you come. At the end, if I can give to you a folder, Ms. Bauer, I would love to provide that to you. And on the brochure, it has our email address if any of you would be interested. Outreach and events, team building, community service, and then projects. So we'll be having a big project that we'll be developing that will sort of make a mark for E. Wilson Morrison and also for our boys because we want them to contribute to community, and that's important. Some of the impacts of our program for the participants, a growth mindset. We want them to have a positive future. Our school, leadership development, and behavioral performance and academic improvement, and also a culture of success, and to restore E. Wilson's historical gem. Anybody go to E. Wilson in this room or on this board?
Probably a
Exactly.
bunch of people.
We're in town. You know that better than I do. It's an absolute gem, and it's a privilege to serve there as I do now. Wonderful families, wonderful students. So our opportunity is to make connections with not only the businesses and homes that are right around the school, but with the whole town. So we're excited about this opportunity. We want to have our boys say a few words if we could, and then we'll share with you some photos in closing of our walk and our meal today to Soul Mountain.
Good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Keon. I am a fourth grader at E. Wilson. Being a part of BIG, I have learned how to do a good first impression. I am excited about having friends in BIG. I know I was chosen because I have unique qualities to be a successful leader and mentor. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak with you, and thank you for believing in me.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joey Pendleton. I am a fourth grader at E. Wilson. Being a part of BIG, I have learned a weak handshake and a good handshake. A good handshake means you have confidence, and a weak handshake means that you don't. I am excited about BIG because I really want to be in this group, and I know I was chosen because I have unique qualities to be a successful learner and mentor. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak with you, and thank you for believing in me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Makai, and I am in fourth grader at E. Wilson. Being a part of BIG, I have learned handshaking. I am inspired about handshaking. I know I was chosen because I have a quality of questions to be a successful leader of the mentor. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak with you, and thank you for believing in me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cohen. I am a fourth grader at E. Wilson. Being a part of BIG, I have learned the right way to set up a plate at a restaurant. I am excited about exploring town with Mr. Goodwin and Mr. Mr. Brown. I know I was chosen because I have unique qualities to be a successful leader and mentor. Thank you for giving me this chance to speak with you, and thank you for believing in me.
All of our boys were not able to make it tonight, but thank you for giving them the opportunity to introduce themselves. I hope you will come back to our school, whether you were a student at E. Wilson or whether you just want to visit and have an opportunity to shake a hand, let them show you the warm welcome that you deserve, and come and spend time with us. Again, I'll leave this with you as we go. I did want to just describe our first meeting in pictures today. Soul Mountain, if you've eaten in town, you know where Soul Mountain is located, right on Main Street. As we turn the corner out of E. Wilson to walk down Chester Street, we got right to the barber shop, and I noticed on the corner, if it's Wednesday, I live in town, if anyone lives in town, what happens on Wednesday? People gather on the corners on Wednesday. So I stopped the boys and I said, hey guys, I'm not exactly sure what the signs are today or whether or not you want to talk to anyone on our way to Soul Mountain, but use your manners we've talked about. So I expected the boys to follow me. So I went around the corner and I look, and they broke out a line and went and started talking to all of the men holding signs right across from the gazebo. So I was excited. And when they turned around, they said, that sign said honk for Trump. So they made a lot of friends today. So it was exciting. So that gave us a lot of conversation in the restaurant, of course, as we arrived. So the next picture here, we talked about table manners before and during the meal and after. We kind of went over that before we were asked what we wanted to order. We talked about handling utensils. We taught the continental way to hold utensils and also the American style, which many of our kids were more familiar with. And then you see a picture of us there at the table as we practice. We have a fifth grade teacher who joins us, Mr. Seelinger, who's a phenomenal teacher at our school. He loves being a part of our group. He goes with us to the lunches, and he also goes, that's once a month, and the meetings are after school, so he attends all of those. I did learn something quite interesting today from the boys. On the walk, we were stopped. And one of the boys, I don't remember which one of the boys looked at me, but they said, Mr. Goodwin, you're kind of like the stepfather. And Mr. Brown's kind of like the real dad. And Mr. Seelinger, he's the godfather. So we all have our family unit now that we've, put together. So the last things we did, we talked a little bit about setting a table. So Mr. Brown asked for a place setting. So we had napkins in our laps like you're supposed to. We had a place setting delivered to us from the back. And then each one of the boys had to mix up the place setting so that the next boy could get in line behind him and reset it in the proper place. That was all before eating a delicious meal. This happened to be mine, the Cajun chicken sandwich, which I highly recommend. And then so our boys ordered from the menu, and you can see that picture. They were very welcoming to us, and we were so appreciative of the opportunity we had to be there. We were able to eat together at that large table like a family because that's the way we see ourselves, and we look very much forward to the next meeting we have, which is tomorrow. We have a guest speaker. Devin is coming from the Blue Ridge Tech Center, the Culinary Arts Program, and he will be bringing a lot more utensils and a lot more plates. So we'll be learning about place settings, how to behave when you're in a meeting with folks at lunch and a meal, and to show interest in conversation. He's a phenomenal person. We think he's influential, so he's going to be with us. In February, this month, we have another meeting coming up, and our speaker, I'm happy to say, will be Mr. Drescher, an influential person in our community, as well as each one of you. So if you're interested, I would love to have all of you come. Our boys would benefit from that conversation, and we welcome you. So I hope that you will do that. And once again, just wanted to thank the Warren County Education Endowment. And I leave you with Marion Wright Edelman's quote, "It's the responsibility of every adult to make sure children hear what they've learned from the lessons of life and to hear over and over again that we love them and that they're not alone." That's each of our jobs. So thank you for the opportunity, and we very much appreciate each one of you today, I was going to show this mug, and I will. When we have a speaker come, we offer a mug. Yes, it's a big mug. It says, "Boys and the Gentlemen," big, B-I-G, Boys and the Gentlemen. I make a big difference at E. Wilson Morrison Elementary School. So we know we would not have this opportunity or program if we did not have our principal, Ms. Rudisil, in supporting us. So I asked Kyler if he would to please present this to her tonight. Would you give that, please, to our principal? And we thank you for the privilege to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and I just want to say, you boys did a great job getting up and speaking. It is so difficult to get up and speak. I still have trouble with it. I don't like it, and you all did a great job. And I think we would all like to experience that firm handshake and the eye-to-eye contact. So would you all come up here and shake our hands? I also want to say, when I was just a little bit older than you boys, my mother sent me to Winchester every week for a year for what was called cotillion. And we had to learn a lot of these manners and setting the table and handshakes and eye contact, but we also had ballroom dancing. So you may want to think about including that at some point. Okay, thank you again. School Board Appreciation Month, Mr. Drescher.
All right, well, we often all say how many good things we have going on in Warren County Schools, and this certainly is an example of one of the good things we have going on. So I thank you guys for doing that. Thanks to the parents for bringing your children here this evening. It was very, very nice, so thank you. As was already mentioned, February is a month for many things, but one of the things is School Board Appreciation Month. And as you I hope you know how much the community and staff and faculties of our schools appreciate all that you do. And I have just a very small token of our appreciation this evening as a certificate of recognition for each of you. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Also want to say thank you to, I guess, is this from Sue Ann?
Sue Ann.
Sodexo? All the ladies, well, thank you. It's filled with some homemade cookies, so thank you very much. If the boys and family would like to leave, you're welcome to leave. I know you probably want to run home and do homework, but if you'd like to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're also welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Broken foot or whatever he's got. The one teaching is mine. Putting that canvas.
Superintendent's report, Mr. Drescher.
All right, I always feel like second fiddle following that type of stuff, but that is wonderful. As all of us know, weather days have impacted the school calendar. If you have not already, you will be getting messages from your school on several date changes. We did have to do some things to get our 180 days in, so it's what's planned on the calendar, but we will be sending notices via our communication system to everyone. We've missed 6 days so far. We've had 5 late end days and 1 early dismissal, just to give us that. February is Black History Month, and there are a number of recognitions and events happening in all of our schools this month, and I just would like to highlight a couple of them. The first I'll highlight is at LFK, they're bringing in the Bright Star Touring Theater on the 19th, and the entire school will get an opportunity to see either a show on the Underground Railroad for kindergarten through second, or 3rd through 5th, we'll get to see Black History Hall of Fame. So just thought I'd highlight one of those. And the next one I would highlight is Warren County Middle School, and I'll ask Mrs. Amy Gubler to come up and introduce her guests and what they did in recognition.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us. At Warren County Middle School, we began the year with our One School, One Book, the red bandana, which emphasized helping others. And so our school met and we decided that we wanted to do a writing contest during Black History Month to continue that theme. So we did a writing contest related to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who devoted his life to leading the advancement of civil rights. And we asked our children to choose from one of two themes. The first was, in his I Have a Dream speech, Martin Luther King said, "The task is not done, the journey is not complete. We can and must do more." So the children are asked to write a 3-paragraph essay explaining what they can or will do to continue Dr. King's dream. Or they could write a 3-paragraph essay based on their thoughts of the quote, "If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way." So we let the children pick, and every English teacher showed the Martin Luther King dream speech. And then the students in the school all did what we call a quick write, where they just got their thoughts down, and then we gave them the option to do this essay. And I'm proud to say, it's the first time we've ever done it, that we had 32 children take us up on it. And I have with me tonight our winners, who will read their essays to you. So I'm going to ask the ladies to come up. And they're going to share their very brief essays, but I'm very excited, and I hope you are too when you hear what they've had to say.
Hello, everybody. My name's Ayana Vasishta, and I am a 6th grader at Warren County Middle School. I will now read you my I Have a Dream speech about Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech is considered one of the most powerful speeches in the history of America. It's amazing to know how 4 words can revolutionize the process of equality among people of different cultures and backgrounds. It was a big goal to achieve, but with the determination, perseverance, and efforts of people from all walks of society, it became a reality. However, in present times and days, issue of inequality still comes up and needs to be addressed. I believe that all humans are the same. The same blood runs in us all. So the privilege one person gets should be available to the other person, no matter what background he or she comes from. We can create a sense of equality in everyone by making an effort to know about people who are different than us. This will help us learn and celebrate the difference. Everyone has something important to share that can enrich our lives. We can be role models and stand up against anything and everything that discriminates people. If we notice that someone is being discriminated because of something beyond their control, we should try to help them in any way we can and also report it to the appropriate agency. Raising a concern about it will raise awareness among other people. We shouldn't judge people based on their color or background. We should not make assumptions about someone's cultural background. Instead, we should try to know the people and appreciate what they bring into society. At school level, we can form clubs and organizations where everyone is given an equal chance to contribute. Starting at a small level, we can make big and long-lasting impacts on the future of America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Beatrix Boudreau, and I'm a 7th grader, and now I'm going to read you my essay. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be treated unequally or have no respect from anyone whatsoever? Think back to all the times you have hung out with your friends and they singled you out from the group. How did that make you feel? Imagine living your life every day being treated that way. This is what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and many other people of color had to deal with for a long period of time. What you are about to read is my take on how we can help make this world equal and how our actions might affect the future. If you have ever thought back to the past and remember how people were treated during that time frame, you would probably think to yourself, wouldn't it be nice to have everything be at peace and have everyone treated the same? While that would be great, it is not a reality. Though you cannot change what happened in the past, you can change what happens in the future. There are many things you could do to help everyone get treated equally, whether it be at school or in a club you join. One way you can have everyone treated equal is by giving people around you the same amount of respect. Many people love when they know they are respected, which would help make them feel equal as well. Make sure not to single anyone out either. It will hurt them in the long run and will make them feel unequal. This task is not done. The journey is not complete. We can do and must do more. This is a quote from Dr. King's famous speech, "I Have a Dream." The meaning of this quote is no matter how hard we try, we will always fight for equality and must figure out how to make this world better every day of our lives. Think back to what I said in the previous paragraph. Wouldn't it be nice to have everything be at peace and have everyone treated the same? I personally think that would be a great thing and would finally make this world better. Some people might think differently, though. You never know what the future holds. The result to that question may be good, bad, or somewhere in between. Working together, we can all figure out a way to make this world a better place. In due time, with all our hard work, our wish for equality will finally become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Gennari, and I'm an 8th grader at Warren County Middle School, and I was very excited for this opportunity to write this essay because even if, the students don't hear about it or whatever, I think it's something that needs to be addressed and isn't as addressed as it should be, and here's what I wrote about it. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist minister and a civil rights advocate, was born on January 15th, 1929, and he was assassinated on April 4th, 1968. This inspiring and peaceful man had less than 40 years of life, yet he still did and said so many things to help make a fair life for African Americans in the U.S. One specific thing he once said was, "If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way." This quote radiates wanting to do good, determination to do so, and in a way, patience. The quote, "If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way," can be moving not only for civil rights, but it can be advice to fight racism in our everyday lives. Not everything you do is going to be a magnificent success. "If I cannot do great things" is a part of Dr. King's quote I interpret as not worrying about how extravagant of actions you take on any important matters. This goes hand in hand with being patient and taking small steps towards obliterating segregation and racism, but you cannot do this without determination and perseverance. Back in King's day, colored citizens couldn't drink from the same water fountains as whites could. Luckily, we don't have to deal with that level of segregation today because it's illegal. Dr. King was a huge part of that. And the sad thing is, though, racism still exists. I can do small things in a great way. Use this advice to fight racism in your everyday lives. Do something simple and kind. Something as simple as helping another student on their homework, or even just a small compliment towards them, whether they're black or white, can make their day. After all, the only difference between the two is the appearance and pigment of what's on the outside, not who we are as a person. Martin Luther King Jr. was an amazing, peaceful, caring individual who passed before his time. His quote saying, "If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way," can be applied to his time in the civil rights movement and our everyday lives against any racist things we encounter. This is how we keep his dream alive after he's gone.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and sharing that with us and getting involved in writing for a contest. You all have a gift. You write very well, and I hope you continue with that and maybe take some of the journalism classes when you get to high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there again, you all don't have to stay if you don't want to. And thank you, parents, for supporting your children in their education. Okay, something we've all been waiting for, presentation of compensation and benefits study. Mr. Drescher.
All right. Well, 3 years ago, we actually started talking about doing a study like this, and it's taken us a little while to pull it off. But in conjunction with Warren County government, we were able to do a compensation and benefits study. And I'm very pleased tonight to have with us Rick Campbell, who headed up the study along with his wife Karen, and who couldn't be here this evening. I'm sorry about that. But they've done a very thorough job of taking a look at a wide range of, or the whole range of all of our compensation, whether it's benefits and salaries, our staffing levels, and then actually taking a look at things like how we describe all the job descriptions as well. So I'll let Mr. Campbell take it away.
As long as there's no threats for, ballroom dancing at the end.
I love to ballroom dance.
Took it twice, so I'm just saying.
I've tried to get my husband to take it a few times. It doesn't work.
No. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. I'd just like to start off with, whenever I've done these kind of studies for different organizations across the country, one of the key components for success is not only support from bodies such as yourself, but really from the project team having not only a vision on what they want, but also having an action plan to see that, that it gets adopted. Doesn't always happen, but otherwise it's just wishful thinking, that a lot of complaining saying we need more money without a vision or a plan in order to see that it gets there. And so that's a credit to Mr. Drescher for, and also the county for kind of taking the steps to proceed in that path. This presentation is mostly going to be a kind of a top-level view in the packets that include the study. They are public documents, and I guess they're going to be up on the website here relatively soon for public dissemination. So this is going to be, again, a top level, and more details are in the body of the body of the report. The outline of what I'm going to discuss tonight goes from the scope of work on down to conclusion, with a lot of steps in between. Scope of work was specified in the RFP, an awful lot of words, but basically really covers what Mr. Drescher talked about, is really trying to find out where the school district is, and having a plan of where you want to be, and then trying to see kind of a path forward. And that's what you could sum it all up. One thing to take into consideration, this was a regional study, so the intention was not to compare Warren County to Northern Virginia. That would be an apples and oranges kind of comparison. So predominantly we looked at other school districts in the region for comparison, and where Warren County wanted to be placed, relative to that group. This is a picture form of the process that we went through. There's a kickoff meeting with Mr. Drescher and the project team to kind of go over an expectation of the goals and the process itself, cover things like who were the comparators. Typically, we are tasked with that process ourselves, but Mr. Drescher and the county had a very specific list on this is the region that we want to compare to. We don't want to be compared to Northern Virginia. So setting that kind of yardstick or goal at the front, kind of defines the rest of the project. We didn't go back later on and say, well, these numbers are not high enough or low enough to justify whatever. We set at the beginning and then proceeded forward from there. We looked at the salaries of employees where they are at now, the different salary scales to get a baseline, establish where things were at. One of the very important things that PayPoint HR strongly believes in is engaging employees in the process, because at the end of the day, it's their compensation. So finding out from them, what they do on a day-to-day basis was, very important to be able to go out in the external market and do to the very best of our ability with their help to have an apples-to-apples comparison. In addition to what the employees put down for describing their jobs, we also had a checks and balance system, if you will, had their supervisors, oftentimes principals, to review what they had put down. 95% of the time it's to add things, but there's always exceptions to that as well. We came back a second time to do focus groups to cover ideas that were, not necessarily on the dollar and cents side of things, but also on, a cultural kind of things, on how things can be, improved at the school district. And that covers the areas in blue. On the orange side is more, more my specialty. My background, long time ago, my PhD is in mechanical engineering, so I worked at NASA for a number of years and played with rockets. So I'm on the number side. So a lot of the information that we received was from the school district, where you were at, and digging down into the numbers, but is also going out to surrounding districts and asking them for these same positions, again, as part of the process is getting the employees, involved and telling us what they did, and make sure that we have a fair comparison. What do they pay for these positions? Those numbers were combined and calculated, and that's what came out at the end of the day in the report. Employee outreach. Now, we already talked a little bit about this. We came to have briefing sessions to introduce the employees to the process. About 500 employees participated. So that's really going through, it's about a 12-page survey explaining, what do they do on a day-to-day basis. That many participants is frankly just outstanding, that they are that engaged and, want to be heard. We had, later on, as I mentioned, the focus groups that covered, I think it was in the middle of a snowstorm, if I remember right. Still had many people, come out and talk about, different, like I said, cultural kind of issues that were important to them. Now benefits, in terms of total compensation, and you can't look at salary alone. The benefits are an increasing portion of, the total expenditures. What we've found, and there's a long list of things in the report. Some of the, I guess, on the top level, I'd have to say is that the school district's done a very good job at, managing, employee benefits and trying to, do all they can to contain costs. It's not always an easy thing. Lots of different plans, competition from different vendors, and it's beyond the, my realm of expertise. Unfortunately, my wife Karen is the expert on that, and she at one point had her license in doing these kind of things. So when she says that the county's doing a good job, it's not fluff. I mean, it's the truth that is what is happening with the county. There are, in the report, there are other things that were addressed that could be done better, like areas of wellness kind of programs, trying to enhance kind of tuition reimbursement. As things progress, go to college, you can see kind of the bills that people are carrying as they matriculate through school. And then they come out and becoming teachers, they're weighted down with, in some cases, large amounts of debt. So programs that are looking into tuition reimbursement, not only for the school district here, but just nationwide, are becoming an ever-increasing area of importance for boards like yourself, Board of Supervisors, to consider. Now more onto my specialty. This is the current salary plan, kind of is reduced down as far as possible. On the left-hand side is more of the instructional salary scale for grade 1, and grade 1 is primarily teachers with a bachelor's degree. So it ranges now with the beginning level at $43,247, and at 44 years of experience, it goes up to $74,191, with varying degrees of steps, and it's not uniform once you dig through the numbers. So you can see even at like year 4 and 5, it's the same value. That's on the instructional side. On the non-instructional side, many different grades with, in this case, the lowest grade is a grade 17, not a grade 6. So being able to figure out where people are on the scale, and that each person has, equal opportunity for growth and advancement. It's a little hard, frankly, to base just on the grade level to figure that out. So one of the things that we did in this process is try to, consolidate it and, produce kind of a logical order, so that everyone has an equal opportunity for growth, and can be clear-cut and transparent. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the things we had the employees fill out, and there's about 500 of them, is what we call a position vantage point. And it's really a fancy word for helping us understand what you do on a day-to-day basis. So we asked a lot of questions. If I did it today, it should take me about 10 minutes, because I've done this 1,000 times. But for most part, it should take most employees less than an hour. And we didn't hear a lot of people saying it took much longer. But having said that, it's really covering, again, we weren't asking them to look at their job descriptions and to inform us, on the details of that, because we already had that information, The project team provided us. This is in their own words, what they did on a day-to-day basis. So that was part of the survey. The other part was to look at their knowledge, skills, and abilities, so that we can compare, what does a maintenance worker to a bus driver to Mr. Drescher, for that matter, and how to, fairly create an internal equity or internal hierarchy, just based on knowledge, skills, and abilities. As an independent, kind of unbiased third party, if I just see the numbers, it's not based on personalities or, any kind of bias that I would have of one group being better than another. It's really just reflective of, again, their individuals or a job title's knowledge, skills, and abilities. So this is providing us a metric or a yardstick, if you will, on how to internally, rank different job titles. The factors that are considered in that ranking are there on the left, and it produced a score for every job title that you see, a short summary of some of them there on the right. So it goes from, in this case, the assistant superintendent was at a 165.9, and relative to that, you can see that it's, following, a fairly, understandable kind of order, and it went down to the, the lowest, all employees within Warren County Public Schools. That's one yardstick that we use, and it's not the only one. One of the things that we do is 2 independent measures. One is knowledge, skills, and abilities based on what people are saying. But we also look at externally, what are surrounding communities, how do they evaluate or rate these same different titles. Independent, so that we have a way of kind of like a sound check, make sure that they're 2 are in agreement. From that, this is a very kind of brief summary. Again, it goes into more detail in the full report. But what it really boils down to is this is for non-instructional employees, just to be clear. 31, which is more than half of them, count them up, are about near the market, where they should be. that what I mean by near market, and this is part of the strategic vision that was laid out by, Mr. Drescher and the project team, is strategically they wanted the school district to be at 60% of the market. And again, the market is the region, not, all of Virginia or Northern Virginia or anywhere else. Within the region, they wanted to be at the 60th percentile. Convert that into maybe a more layman's terms. So if you have 5 different counties, you'd be third highest kind of thing out of the 5. So for the bulk of them, employees, Mr. Drescher wanting it to be at the 60%, well, that's where you're at for most employees. So really the job is adjusting the employees that are below market and trying to, catch them up where they should be. And then to also look at the ones that are above and finding ways of, letting the market catch up to them so that everybody's on an equal playing field. The recommendations, one of the things I touched on earlier is to come up with a salary scale that is clear and transparent for everyone. What you see here is a different kind of grading system between W1 to W21. And by chance, since we did a study for the county a few weeks ago, it's identical. So if, for instance, somebody from the county, and I'll choose this direction, wants to come and work for the, school district, they'll understand, I'm a grade 17 here, and I'm gonna move to a 17 with the school district, so pay is gonna be, the same, or the same salary scale. So that was an important feature. The way the scale is set up is to look at the living wage for Warren County. MIT has this nice service where it looks at the cost of living for every city, county in the United States. And for one of the calculations, so they look at the price of housing, the price of food for an individual. So that's what we set the minimum of grade 1 there as $12.18 an hour. The people that's going to affect really are the lowest wage earners. And the dollar amount that, that it's would cost to move people up there is typically the smallest amount, but it can also make the biggest bang for the buck, if you will. The steps between grades is set at 5%, and the width is uniformly 60% wide. So everyone can kind of have an idea of how the progression is for their grade. Everything's the same width. It's a standard. One group that was set apart a little bit was what I will loosely call the administrative. So that would be, the different directors, principals, and that sort. For that, it was a little different because the minimum amount to actually attract those individuals caused the scale to be a little different. And that's how it was set. The width was the same 60%, and the difference between each step, if the math is done, it's $2,000 between each step. The instructional scale. This is again part of the project team and Mr. Drescher's strategic vision on where he wants the school district to be at. And that is really the main competitor or main driver is Frederick County, point blank. So having said that, the core group that was identified that I guess need to be competitive with is in the range between year 5 and year 15. That is losing, employees, teachers in that group is painful. I guess that's probably the best word for it, is painful. So in that case, that is how the scale was set to reflect, to be kind of at the same level, or even as Frederick between the years 5 and 15. And then the rest of the scale, it kind of evolved from that. Physical impact of this. So as I mentioned, the living wage portion is our, and we had the same thing, just to be clear, there was a group at the county that's also fell into this, living wage recommendation. This would affect 30 employees, and the total cost of $63,260, just to raise everybody up to the $12.18 an hour. Relatively a small amount of money. And then it's broken down into, different groups there, with the largest group being the instructional group at $1.6 million. In total, the recommendations cover 613 positions at a cost of $2.3 million. This was kind of alerted to when we made the presentation to the county that it was going to be a bigger number than the recommendations, similar recommendations for the county, where they have some awareness of this. One of the things that, in the notes that I wanted to bring it to your attention, this doesn't include the additional cost of benefits. This is salary only. And second, this is really to adjust the scales. So this isn't talking about really individual employees where they're falling in the scale. This, in the case of where salaries have been frozen for a number of years, that's not taken into consideration. So I wanted to highlight that as well. Staffing levels. So what we did for staffing levels as part of the survey, we asked the surrounding communities, school districts, how many employees did you have in these different areas? And then looked at based on the number of buildings, the number of students, all those different kind of factors, and to see where you were staffed appropriately, staffed higher than other areas, and staffed lower than other areas. So some of the recommendations based on, again, on those factors, school size, the number of schools, the number of leadership positions. The recommendation would be to add 3 more, add additional school secretaries, add another physical therapist, and the biggest one there is add the number 63 more teachers. Where there's reductions, goes for instructional assistants, resource teachers, maintenance employees, occupational and speech therapists. That more or less concludes the slides I had. I really want to thank, Mr. Drescher, Melody, the entire, project team. This, not all our clients are, we enjoy working with, and I can just, it doesn't do me any benefit to say that I enjoy working with the team, but I do. And I think you have a good group. And probably even more importantly than that, they're really interested in making the school district better. They not only have a vision, as I mentioned at the beginning, but also a plan in order to get there. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer.
I guess before you have any questions, I just would make a comment that what our plan is at this point is we now have the report. We have the details and the numbers to begin working with. We do have a kind of a generalized idea of what our steps are, but we need to do a little more work. So we've planned for a work session again next Wednesday for the school board, and that's open. It will be over at the 15th Street meeting place. So at that point, we'll dig into the numbers a little bit more deeply, try to explain. I hope I can explain some of this stuff, how it was figured out. It's nice to have a third party come in unbiased about this is where you guys are. And really appreciate, I know it's just flashed up here for the first time, but one of the things I think we're going to truly appreciate is the revision of our scales. It makes it a lot easier to understand. People have you can see where you're going to go in your career. it's still a matter of having money to do steps and things like that, but the scale itself, if we can adopt this or something very similar, well, it's certainly up to the board to do. I think it will help us in the long term. But our next big job is to look at how we take those recommendations at what was it, 6 or 3 or whatever it was?
Or
Big,
you just
big.
keep going.
6, 8, 9.
That's without adding all the additional.
That's without the additional staff, and I would just make a comment that, for as long as I've been here, I have felt like we do an awful lot with less. And seeing these numbers come out this way, I almost can't imagine our school district with 63 more teaching bodies in it. Just what the impact that would have on students and what we'd be able to offer. So that needs to be part of the plan too, as to how we look at what our most prioritized needs are and how we can begin putting that in our budget as well and what that is. So I don't know if you have any questions for Mr. Campbell that he can try to answer, but I've certainly appreciated what his team has done and helped us try to figure out. So that's the next plan. Is next Wednesday we'll have an opportunity to dig into this a little deeper, and I'm hoping to come to you with some recommendations about first steps.
Well, it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we had this study done. I mean, we've wanted to do something for years, and we've been discussing it for years, and this sort of validates it all, so it's nice to have this. Any questions or discussion?
No, I have none.
Going for the work session.
Wait for the work session? Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank
Do
you,
you have,
Mr. Campbell.
do you have a long way to travel tonight?
Couple hours, it's okay.
Oh, well, drive carefully.
All right, take care.
Well, my computer just went down.
Program of Studies. Mr. Fox, Program of Studies.
No, school board reports.
I was skipping over you guys, sorry.
Mr. Williams.
I did. This was the end.
All right. Madam Chair, I would just like to say it's really nice to see the 3 young ladies come in tonight and be so well prepared, and then to publicly speak.
I know.
And then that's the middle school, and then you take the guys from down at the elementary school, get up and speak to you and walk behind us. I mean, that's very impressive to me that our staff has done such a great job with these children, and that's just a little bit we see, so I can imagine how big it really goes. And hopefully it won't snow anymore this year, so we can get through this winter and get out of school in June.
Yeah, we need some more warm weather.
We do need more.
My heating bill was awful last month.
Amen.
Mrs. McEachern?
I'd just like to echo Mr. Arnold's with the young men and young women that came and spoke this evening. They did an awesome job, made me very proud. I'd like to thank Mr. Drescher for my certificate and the ladies for my cookies. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Wells?
Again, I'll echo everything. I wish we didn't scare these folks so much.
We're scary.
Yeah, I guess so. But we do appreciate when they come and they speak. Ms. Oakland, thank you, as always. The one thing that I'd just like to say from the very top of this whole thing, and it's to the Board of Supervisors, but I'd like to say it to the public as well, is this is not a political issue. We're not trying to politicize it. I think over my years on this board has been very good about not saying, we're giving you an ultimatum. If you don't do it, we're bringing the parents in and saying we're getting rid of all the athletics, which I've seen happen in some communities. The Board of Supervisors has always worked well with us, and I think we've shown patience from the 2008 to when we finally got our building program. We're willing to work, but it's time. It's time that we start making some inroads and making some solid progress to this. And I know it takes money. I know they've got to spend money for other things. They have a compensation program of their own that they have to deal with. And the money comes from one place, and that's from the citizens of Warren County, and we appreciate that as well. But we're dealing here with the most precious commodity we've got. It's our kids. And we just can't afford to keep on turning out great teachers for Frederick County and Shenandoah County and Loudoun County, and you know, we're proud of them. They go out. We've got some superintendents that have come out of this system that are in other places. We've got principals, we've got leaders, we've got great teachers, but it's time we start keeping them at home. And that's kind of the focus that I want to put on the budget process this year.
Very well said, Jim.
Still a guy gets
Yep,
to say whatever.
that's great. I'm glad you said all that,
Very well
Mr.
said,
Wells.
Jim.
I agree with every bit of that. I really have nothing to report, although this Saturday, the regional wrestling tournament will be hosted by Skyline High School, so it's unusual for a regional tournament to be here. You don't have to travel, so come out and,
Good morning, too.
you know, support our wrestlers. Okay. Action agenda. Approval of 2019-20 Program of Studies. Mr. Fox. Mr. Campbell, you don't have to wait around. If you'd like to hit the road and start that drive, please. Don't feel like you have to sit through the rest of this meeting. Thank you. Okay, ballroom dancing. Lessons later.
Good evening. This is the second reading of the Program of Studies, and what that means is that very shortly, students will be scheduling for school year 1920. It's literally just around the corner. I have some updates since I came before you.
2020.
2020.
1920.
Did he say 1920?
Yeah. That's when Kathy went to school. He was.
Wow.
Yeah, I look good, don't I?
Impressed. Carry on, Mr.
Updates
Fox.
since our last meeting, and even a few updates since the
Excuse me.
Program of Studies that I presented to you that you're looking at. So the updates, when this is uploaded to our website, the cover page will include a graphic for both, for Skyline Middle School and an updated graphic for Warren County Middle School. Page 31, under Horticulture Science, there will be a course number 834C. Also, we have added a few electives. There's a middle school computer science elective called Coding. This is going to be an introduction to the basics of computer programming. Also, another middle school elective, World Cultures for 8th grade. This is a social studies elective. It is designed to provide students with the opportunity to study the people and places of today's world. The study will include geography, economics, education, and religion. And also, when you take a look at the program of studies, you're going to note some differences in the offerings, particularly at the two high schools. And wanted to take the opportunity to give you just a brief explanation of some of the things that are going on there. In some cases, advanced courses may be offered if the teacher has a specific area of expertise in a field. This is the case for a class that we're offering at Skyline High School called the History of World Civilizations. The teacher has an expertise in this. In some cases, student interest has prompted the additional course. The example I have there is Latin 5 at Skyline High School. Ms. Dean has built the program to the point where she has enough students to offer the Latin 5, but only at one school. I note if Blue Ridge Tech Center is listed, students from both schools can obviously be enrolled. And finally, I want to talk about endorsement. When you see that a school is offering dual enrollment for college credit, then the person teaching that course has a master's degree with at least 18 hours of credit in that specific content area. And the teacher with the master's with 18 hours in that specific credit might be at Skyline High School, which means they can offer it at Skyline High School, or could it be happening at Warren County High School? And that does explain the difference between the two schools in most cases.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that because those were some of the questions I had for Mr. Drescher recently, and I know you were sharing that for my benefit. So thank you.
But it's good information for our parents and for our students to understand why the differences exist.
Right, thank you. So are there any questions or discussion about the program of studies from Mr. Fox?
If there is for example, a dual enrolled class offered at Warren County and the student is a Skyline student, is there any opportunity for them to take that course?
Yes, and I cannot give you a specific example right now, but in some cases, the students can be transported from Warren County to Skyline or from Skyline to Warren.
But sometimes there's a scheduling issue with that.
Right.
They may be 15 minutes late or, you know, so it's not always as easy as you.
In general, it doesn't work real well to do it, but we try to do it if we can. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? No? Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the 2020 program of studies as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Fox. Stay where you are. Approval of What Matters Star Scholarship.
Thank you. This is another scholarship brought to us by Beth Medved-Waller. She has been giving several scholarships for several years. And the name of this scholarship is the What Matters Star Scholarship in memory of Ronald P. Rossi. This scholarship amount is $500 to a senior at Skyline High School and at Warren County High School. The description: a beloved annual tradition continues in Front Royal as a 93-year-old's wish was granted during the Christmas holiday. Ronald Rossi had been lighting an enormous steel star from his home on Fox Drive for over 50 years, and the star will continue to shine long after his death, thanks to Nathan Patterson and Royal Auto Works. Patterson closed on the property in late December and invited family and friends for a lighting ceremony that honored the previous owner's memory and marked the beginning of new memories to be made on Fox Drive. According to Patterson, we know that the star is important to the community and the community is important to us at Royal Auto Works. We are happy to be able to provide Christmas joy to Front Royal by keeping the tradition alive. The eligibility requirements for the scholarship, the hope is that it will go to a student entering a trade school or planning to work in a trade field. And there is a video attached that the students will be required to watch the video, and in response, the applicant will write a short statement or an essay about why they feel they are deserving of a scholarship in memory of Mr. Rossi. And again, this is sponsored by Beth Medved-Waller, who just does so many wonderful things for our community.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the What Matters Star Scholarship with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Approval of Oh Yeah Keith Sanker Memorial Scholarship.
The Oh Yeah Keith Sanker Memorial Scholarship. This is a scholarship in the amount of $1,000. This scholarship is meant to enrich and give a boost to the postgraduate who is choosing to enlist in the armed forces, enter a trade school, or enter the workforce. Eligibility requirements: this will be for a student athlete that has persevered through some of life's difficult obstacles. The student athlete has shown the discipline to push through and never quit. The student athlete displays their true Hawk spirit of honor, attitude, work ethic, and knowledge. The student will be required to write a 250-word essay that describes his or her Hawk spirit and any obstacle that the student may have overcome. This scholarship is sponsored by the Skyline High School football team, and I wanted to give everyone here an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Keith Sanker. So tonight we have with us Amanda Slate and also Keith's high school football coach, Coach Heath Gilbert. So I'd ask them to come up at this time.
Hello, how are you? Sorry, my dress. I came from practice.
And it's a nice warm
before
day.
this. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Keith was tragically taken from us a little over 2 years ago, and his impact in our school community was that emotional rock that we all needed. If Keith's Elementary School had a program like BIG, and I applaud Ms. Rudisil for having a program like that, he certainly would have been a candidate for that. Keith wasn't just an emotional leader for us, but he was that leader and that voice that his peers needed to hear. There's just obviously the big group of our kids are going to listen to your teacher and your coach and be on board with what they're saying, but that group of young men that sometimes need a push from a peer and hear it from them, that's what we could count on Keith for. He's a great young man, and he had an infectious smile, and he's sorely missed for sure. It was certainly a sad day, and to keep his memory alive with a scholarship that Ms. Slade has been working along with the football program, I think would be a great testament to what he did for our school and for our program. So, just
Thank you.
wanted to hear that.
I also enjoyed watching Keith wrestle.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say really quick, I think our society, we put a lot on professional sports. In talking with our athletic director, in his time with Skyline, we've only had 5 football players that have gone to a D1 level. And Keith was not on a path to college, but he was a head-down, muscle-through kind of person. So that's what we wanted to enrich. The football is not just athletics. You know, it's a discipline, it's a lifestyle, we're a family. So we want to push those kids, whether they're going to go work at UPS, you know, which is a very honorable job, or they're going to be an electrician. So we have those signing days at school for those kids going to college, but we want to try to recognize the ones that are going into the trade or in a service.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the scholarship?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion. I move that we accept the Oh Yeah Keith Sanker Memorial Scholarship with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for putting together the scholarship. Discussions by school board. Adopt VSBA Code of Conduct for school board members. Who's this fall on?
I can read it.
Is that yours?
Yeah, Virginia School Boards, Virginia School Boards Association encourages its member boards to adopt the VSBA Code of Conduct for school board members. It has been the practice of Warren County School Board to adopt the Code of Conduct. Since last adopted, several new members have joined the board, and therefore it is recommended that the board consider adopting the Code of Conduct. So it is attached. You know,
We will all sign that, and,
we can, yes. Yeah, we've
Okay.
got it
oh, okay.
there.
Mr. Ballantyne will pass that down.
Madam Chairman, I would move that the proposed VSBA Code of Conduct for Warren County Public School Board members be adopted as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Also, there is a VSBA Hot Topics Conference in Charlottesville on April 22nd. If anyone is interested in attending that, please let Mr. Ballantyne know. Thank you. Is there any further business? Meeting adjourned.